Hi, I'm Melissa at last, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my garden, Rose Ether Cherubim. So lately, our videos have been focused on our habits, disciplining ourselves, transcending fear, transcending our emotions, habits, mentalities that hold us back, progress, growth. What else have we been talking about? Our testimony. We've been talking about a lot of things and how to get a wrangle on them so that we show God that we mean business and we're here to do his business and we are fit to do kingdom work. So if you are struggling in any of those areas, feel free to hit the previous videos, and we talk about a bunch of different things and a bunch of different ways how we can transcend that, how we can continue to put God in the center and work through those things so that they don't have a hold over us anymore. Now today is about your voice leading others. And when we show that we are ready for kingdom business and we are out here doing God's work, well, naturally what comes next is that our voice will lead others. Our actions, people will begin to want to replicate because they see that it's working for us, that God is blessing us, that God is moving through us. So that's something that just naturally happens next. Now, your voice is going to be your leadership in these next steps. Your voice is going to help people who are watching you, listening, and wanting to learn from you. So you're going to have to learn to use your voice and use it in the best, most positive way possible. Use it in the way that is in line with God's will. Now, our corresponding verse, we are in 1 Timothy today. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. So if you are not a fan of the KJV translation, go ahead and get your Bible out now because it gets OE biblical, OE English, no brown paper bag, I promise you. So 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. Let no man despise thy youth. Be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. Now, see, this is perfect because Timothy is like a young church leader. So Paul is writing a letter to him on how to conduct himself and to avoid certain pitfalls so that his congregation stays strong and his reputation is something to be respected, and he can continue his position as a leader, not only continue, but grow in that position as a leader. So Paul's really looking out for Timothy here. And honestly, let's go up a little bit, okay? So let's go up to 10. So 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 10. For therefore we both labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those that believe. These things command and teach. And let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. And he goes on to talk about sticking to doctrine, sticking to the word, and continuing to teach out of that. Don't teach out of any assumptions or old stories or old wives' tales. Just truly stick to the word and lead your people through that until he kind of comes and helps him out a little bit more and gets him deeper into understanding. And that's how we have to be for people, for babies in the faith. And again, a baby in the faith does not mean that you're young or that you're not useful or that you're not knowledgeable. This is just, you're getting your sea legs about you. You're really trying to figure out how to walk, and you have that fire within you, and you're just trying to move forward. And a lot of times those babies can be shifted and moved in the wrong way, or taught things like shame, or taught things of fear. They'll push you towards focusing on demons or the devil or blaming Satan, and When it comes to faith, of course, we need to be aware of the spiritual components that come with this walk. But the major things that we need to be teaching is having complete trust in God, putting God in the center, walking in faith, fearing only the Lord. And anybody who teaches those things, we need to begin to teach the other babies in the faith or the other people in the faith, hey, don't listen to that shit. All right. God will show you and God will get you through any interaction that you have in the physical or the spiritual. You just have to believe. And your faith and your trust has to be strong in God. So when we're doing that, we need to speak with purpose because we need to understand that we are influencing. And what are we choosing to focus on? Is it anything outside of God? And we need to get rid of that. We need to wash our hands of that because our influence in the way that we're speaking to people, it matters. And we need to make sure that God is in the center of every word, every interaction, every lesson that we're trying to teach, any form of advice. And the greatest advice you can ever give anybody is to go to God about it. To not rely on a middleman. And the fact that it's natural to want to do that, but they have their own ability to pray. They have their own ability to meditate. You know, you want to teach them how to fish versus feed them the fish. You may feed them the fish in the beginning, but you're going to constantly talk about teaching them how to fish because they need to learn and they need to put the effort into connecting to God themselves and to know that they can and that is completely possible. And you have to speak with authority because God put you there as a representative. If you're kind of like, or maybe, or if you feel like they're not going to heed your words. They're not going to heed the message that God is trying to give through you. So you have to speak almost in absolutes. And if there is anything you're uncertain on, just tell them to take it to God. And unless you meditate or you get a confirmation from God yourself on which way to guide the conversation, go ahead and just let it sit right there. Because a lot of times, you know, God just is wanting a little introduction before he comes into the fold and reveals to them what it is that they need to know or learn or understand in the moment. And we're going to speak to help others. We're not here to condemn. We're honestly not even here to judge. We're not here to cast fear and shame. Even though I have seen a lot of people learn through being guilted, a lot of people learn through being shamed, and that most likely comes from a caretaker teaching in that manner, but that doesn't mean that you teach in that manner. You have to teach in an uplifting way. Remember that the end result is not to control the person or get them to do what you think is right. The end result is to uplift the other person, to help them, to get them to their eyes back to God and requesting and prayer and meditation and learning what it is to go to God for everything and eliminate the middleman. That's what we're here for. And that's what our voice is needing to do because we're here to grow other leaders eventually. That person will grow and grow in their faith, grow in their trust in God, get stronger as they continue their walk, and they will become a leader. And that's kind of the ultimate goal in using your voice to lead others, is to awaken the inner leader within them so they can help the next person behind them. And as you begin to understand that your voice creates an impact, you have to be respectful to every spirit that God brings in front of you. Because, I mean, it's kind of obvious, you know, we're here to be respectful, to be loving, to be kind. And there are times that conversations can become intense, especially when people are angry with God and they want to blame God and they want to, you know, blaspheme God. We have to take a step back and keep control and bring love into the situation, because oftentimes We can eliminate an enemy, through violence, but we can eliminate an enemy through love and get the person in remembrance of why they fell in love with God in the first place, why they trusted Him to begin with. And we have to wait for that opportune moment and allow them to sift through the variety of emotions they may feel based on what they're going through. So always remain respectful. If you find yourself that you can't, you need to remove yourself. And you need to ask God for patience and prayer and how to address this situation correctly or successfully. And if it's just not in you at that moment, it's not in you in that moment. You may not be the right person to help that individual, and that's okay. At least maybe they took in a little bit of what you said, or maybe you took in a little bit of what they said, and you're better prepared for the next time you come across a particular argument or mindset. So you're speaking with purpose, knowing that God placed you there for a reason, but you're also speaking to that person's spirit, and you're encouraging the purpose within that spirit to make itself known. A lot of people tend to not understand what their influence can do because they're looking at their identity of, oh, little me, what do I know? What is it that I can do for the next person? And, through these videos, we begin to work through that, and we begin to understand that God formed our identity. So even we can be speaking to somebody with much more experience in their, not only in life, but in faith, in the word. But what we say or how we say it, or the fire that's sparked within us, can bring them to some kind of remembrance. And the same thing for the younger ones. They may not understand completely what you're saying. Some things may be going over their head. They're going to want to understand. They're going to want to be at a place where they can speak with conviction. They can speak with purpose and authority. And they know that it's possible because you're exhibiting it. And you're exhibiting it specifically through your voice, but also through your actions, through the way that you live. And that's why 1 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 12 is very specific, because I know that all of us have been in a situation of being new and being unsure of how we should conduct ourselves, or what we should say, or how much we should step, out of our comfort zone to begin our work in the world. And here, Paul tells him, be the example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in how you give, in your spirit, in your faith, and in your purity. Now, purity does not mean not living your life, not enjoying things, and being overtly strict with yourself. It doesn't mean that. It just means living your morals, demonstrating how you love, through your lifestyle. So in everything you do, is there love? Is there God? Is there the fruits of the Spirit? Is there the wisdom and the knowledge of the word in how you're moving, and how you're thinking, and how you're living? And because people learn most through example, especially children. You can tell them 1,000 times to do something, but if you're not demonstrating it, you're not living that in your life, you're not showing it as valuable, then what reason do they have to see that as valuable? So that's something that's important in demonstrating, and being in your voice will have more authority when your lifestyle is demonstrating that authority as well. It's a hearing and learning, right? Some people learn through hearing, some people learn through seeing, some people learn through tactile, which is like doing. So you want to be an example of each one, so that all the different learners, all the different people who are looking to learn from you can take something away when they have their experience with you. So for me personally, and we're going to get very deeply personal because this is something that I keep close to the chest. My little one, when he was about 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism. And I don't pronounce that to the world because I want them to see my little one for him, not for his diagnosis. I don't want people to look at him and think a diagnosis. I want people to look at him and see his spirit, see his joy, see the amazing gift that God has placed on this earth. And that's why I'm not ashamed, but that's why I don't put it out into the world, because I want the world to experience my little one without the label. And that's without the label, without pity, and without looking at him like he can't do something. So that's why I keep it close to the chest, and I will have that conversation, when we meet people. And, people are gonna, be able to pick up on it, with time, with being around us. But that's why I keep it close to the chest. And that's why I'm proud to be, a mom that is raising a child who is on the spectrum and is beating the odds and is reaching milestones and is doing a lot of things that were a concern at some point of whether he would do them or not. And one of the biggest things that I advocate for children who are on the spectrum is physical activity. That's going to be the biggest thing that helps them neurologically. It's going to begin to get different motor skills in play. And then children on the spectrum are just so attracted to water. So teaching them how to swim is going to be of the utmost importance. It's going to kind of be priority on the list because they have that attraction to water. And we all know, we all hear the different stories that come with that attraction to water. So one of the first things you definitely want to do is have them have some sort of physical activity daily. It's going to avoid a lot of behavioral things. It's going to avoid a lot of meltdowns because they are pushing and they're getting that energy out. And their neurological system is getting input from the world, and their little GPS is beginning to do a marker. And it helps them with regulation of sleep and food. So one of the biggest things with my son is, we're learning to swim. We're going to get this down. And another thing is we go for walks together. And in those essences, he is getting what he needs physically, as a small child that needs to get their energy out. But we're talking about things like road safety, how to get from, my house to, a trusted family member's house, how to look out for vehicles and how to, talking about the weather and different animals that we see along our walks. So all of those things are positive, and now we've done it for so long, for so often, that people in my neighborhood know, okay, this child belongs to this house. So God forbid something happens where he decides he wants to go for a walk on his own, people know that, he belongs to that house. And that's something that has been helpful. And now on our walks, we begin to see other families bringing their children that, are on the spectrum, that do have different things going on that, make them different. And we see them walking, we see them going early in the morning, and and we see different families with different children now beginning to do that. And maybe because they rode by and saw us, maybe because they see us do it so often, whatever it is, you begin to inspire people without even directly talking to them, through your actions, through them seeing what you do and the fact that it works for you. In the beginning, my child would want to run out to the road every chance he got. He was very excited. He was very overstimulated by things. But the more that we worked on that threshold, and, of course, being blessed by God to be protected and be safe, being blessed with given the right RBTs and the right form of therapies and taking those seriously, all of that is, he's aware. He doesn't get scared or overstimulated by really big vehicles passing by like how he used to. Now he's adjusted, and God has blessed us to work through that threshold and for him to grow through that. But if I kept him sheltered from the world, if I didn't, take exercise seriously and want that to be something that he grew up knowing that that's just what we do, then he wouldn't be able to transcend that. And also, a lot of people can understand and begin to see what's possible. Okay, if I invest in my child this way, like with time and with putting energy, like the what I'm going to get back from it is going to be positive, and what they're experiencing is going to be positive. So just in your example and people seeing you, you're changing. You're changing yourself, and people are watching that, and thus changing the world. People know what's possible. People know, you know what, that's the right thing to do, and I need to make sure that I'm putting exercise and physical exertion into my lifestyle, teaching that, doing that with my child, bonding with my child, and we're gonna grow together in this, and we're gonna figure it out. Anything's possible because I choose to put the time in, and I choose to make this a part of my lifestyle. So seeing that and seeing other people with their children on the spectrum doing the same thing, I don't know, it made me feel good. And it made me happy to know that when you have a child that has a diagnosis that makes life different, that life actually isn't that different. It's not a tragedy. It's not something to mourn and to complain about and to put on social media. You just have different things, different hurdles that you have to get over than other parents, and oh well, right? We don't compare, because that is going to bring unnecessary stress that we don't need, and we're not going to complain about the fact that we can't do things that other parents do, because we can do them. It's just going to be in our own way. And God blessed us with this little spirit, with this. When God blesses you with a child, he's also going to bless you with a provision to take care of that child. So this particular spirit that God placed in our hands, and knowing that we're capable, knowing that we see the world differently, and that we're not going to complain, I think that's the point. So sometimes when I see social media posts about how hard it is, or they're posting things about melt down the hardest moments in life, and they're labeling it under awareness, that's not fair. And that doesn't bring joy, that doesn't bring happiness, that doesn't bring a sense of serenity, that doesn't bring God putting in the center of what he blessed you with when you do things like that. And that's my personal opinion. And to see that people within my community are doing more for their children that are on the spectrum, and not just keeping them inside and worrying that the world is not safe enough. They're taking them out into the world, and they're making sure that they're getting everything that they need, and they're growing in their relationships and in their personal strengths and their personal bodies. Like I love to see that, and I'm happy and I'm blessed to be able to see other parents and other families taking their children and doing these things with them, and letting them out into the world, and not keeping them closed up in the house. So it's been truly a great feeling for me to see that. And I'm very blessed that God allowed me to see and run into these other families that, are doing the same thing that I'm doing, and giving their child the best and highest quality of life. So understand that you can do so much just by putting God first, and understand that you are a leader, whether you want to realize it or not. And definitely stop pulling away from that leadership title. Don't diminish it. Don't push it away. Don't hide from it. Embrace it, and use your voice for authority, for lifting up others, for speaking to their spirit and revealing their purpose, their why, whether it be in a situation, a lesson that maybe they're overlooking and they haven't seen just yet, or an understanding that going to God in this moment, you're going to figure it out and you're going to be just fine. And Take care of the babies that you meet in the faith. Try your best to remove any shame or any negative thinking, any guilt that they may have picked up and learned along the way. Have them remember that they should fear nothing but the Lord. So anything that they encounter, worldly or spiritual, they're gonna get to the other side of it, and they shouldn't fear it. And that they gotta stop blaming devils and Satan for everything, and take accountability in their life for what they're allowing in their mind, in their spirit, and in their environment. You help others by speaking honestly, speaking respectfully, and remembering that you're always there to uplift them. We're not there to shame, create fear, create doubt, okay? If you're doing that, you're doing the opposite of what God is telling you to do. And you demonstrate your love. You demonstrate your trust in God, and you demonstrate your authority in the lifestyle that you live. You are example of the believers in word, in conversation, in your charity, how you give, in your spirit, in your faith, and in your purity. And remember, your purity is just you taking everything that you've learned from the word, from your walk with God, from the example that Christ has set for us, and you're embodying that in your actions, in your lifestyle, in your environment. And understand that you are a leader because you give influence. Whether you realize it or not, they may never tell you that you influence them. You may not even ever know them personally, but God is always going to reveal to you how it is that you've done it. And it could be years later. It could be right away. But God is going to show you. And we have to practice what we're preaching. That's the embodiment of the lifestyle that I was talking about. We have to be that, and we have to speak with our purpose. We have to speak with authority. Mostly we have to speak to help others. So if you're not hitting any of those marks, maybe it's not a time for you to speak, and you have to understand that. And you take that leadership seriously. You go and you do, and you say when God is asking you to go do and say. It's not even a payback, but what you receive from that is so rewarding. It is truly rewarding in a way that you won't even understand. It is truly food for your spirit. You can live on that and not really have to eat that day, or like you can miss a meal because you just feel so enlivened by what you see and how you've made another person's experience on this earth better. How you remind them that God is real. How you maybe push them to get back in their word and get a little more strict in their spirituality, and remember that they're spiritual first. And remember that they're here for a purpose. If you're still here, it's for a reason. You have a purpose to fulfill. And to remind them of that, to remind them of how good life can get when you put God first. So you're doing great, friend. You are knocking it out. You are hitting all the things on the checklist, and you are a true leader. And if nobody told you that, and you needed to hear it, I'm here to tell you you're a true leader. God made you for a reason. And your spirit speaks to other spirits, and it enlivens them. Their light is sparked through you. And you keep living and being the perfect example of our big brother Christ. And you keep living and showing the world that God exists, and keep showing the world proof that God exists, that He has mercy, grace, strength, all of beautiful things that He wants to offer us. I love you so much, friend. You're amazing. I love you. God loves you more. Talk to you later.